The M3 Macs are out, and Apple once again outplayed everyone. 3nm are finally here, and this looks like another revolution. But should you sell your M2 MacBook Pros and go for the M3? Let's look for the answer. We were expecting M3 chips to be impressive, but what we got surpassed all expectations. After getting 3nm in iPhones less than 2 months ago, the MacBooks are once again on top of the world. Thanks to the transition to 3nm, new Macs are now even more powerful than before, while becoming even more power efficient. For example, Apple claims that all three processors have 15% more powerful performance cores and up to 30% more powerful efficiency cores. I know it is too early to say to throw numbers around, but something tells me that the overall performance boost for this CPU will be somewhere around 20 to 25%, and this is mighty impressive. These performance improvements go even further in terms of GPU, but before I dive into that, I want to say how excited and happy I am that the 13-inch MacBook Pro is now gone. It was a laptop in a very old design, and the only good thing about it, M1 and M2 processors. Now instead of paying $1,300 for the dinosaur, we can pay $1,600 for a 14-inch MacBook Pro with an M3 chip. And believe it or not, this looks like a fantastic deal that most people will love. Just think about it, for a couple $100 more than 15-inch MacBook Air, you can get a more powerful and energy-efficient M3 that has all the modern bells and whistles, and more ports, and most importantly, liquid retina display with Pro Motion. Bringing high refresh rate technology to this laptop is huge. Pro Motion was a very big selling point for MacBook Pros, and some people went and spent extra just to get the display, even when the performance of the MacBook Air was enough for them. Now we get the best of both worlds: impressive display and versatile port selection with a powerful processor at a very good price. I'm sure this $1,600 MacBook Pro will be a huge hit. Not everyone needs all the extra horsepower of the M3 Pro chip, and for the majority of tasks, even the base M3 will be more than enough. There's only one thing about that laptop that isn't great: the 8 gigs of RAM. 8 gigabytes in 2023 is not enough, but Apple has an ace up its sleeve: 512GB SSD. If Apple does the smart thing and uses the 2-chip configuration, it should compensate for the lack of RAM with swap. So what about those GPU gains? GPU saw the most substantial upgrade this year with the support of 3 groundbreaking and super useful features. One of them is dynamic caching. I want to say island, but no, caching. The main idea for this feature is maximizing the utilization of the GPU. Normally, when you're doing stuff with your MacBook, it calculates the maximum amount of memory needed for the GPU based on the most demanding part of your workflow. This leads to big chunks of memory being allocated for the GPU and not used all the time. With the dynamic caching, the allocated memory changes dynamically, which helps reduce the amount of idling memory and use more of the GPU. This also means that in most tasks, you will get more RAM available, which should increase the performance even further. This feature only exists in M3 series processors, and we most likely will not see it in any Windows machine for a few years. The next groundbreaking feature is hardware-accelerated mesh shading. Mesh shading is a very difficult task to pull off with a processor, and having hardware acceleration will make all geometry-related work faster and more efficient. If you're a game developer or 3D artist, you should see a dramatic boost in performance. I can't wait to get my MacBook and fire up Blender on it to see how much more powerful it will be. And another impressive feature of the GPU is ray tracing. If you paid close attention to the event, you would notice that Apple put an emphasis on games on Mac. It seems like Apple is slowly destroying the Mac is not for games idea, and big AAA games will be available on MacBooks, and we will play them with the ray tracing. I might be going too far, but I think MacBooks might be the best devices for gaming. They're super powerful, have ray tracing, and they are quiet and power efficient. Seems like the best combo. As I said, all 3 processors have the same improvements in terms of technology. However, the chips themselves are also different now. For many people, the M3 Max seems like the most interesting one, but I'm really curious about the M3 Pro because it isn't like anything we expected. From a glance, it seems like a minor improvement, but only when you look closer, you start seeing the impressive reality of what it is. The first thing that got better is the number of CPU cores in the base model. Now the M3 Pro has 11 CPU cores instead of 10 on the M2 Pro. One extra performance core coupled with all cores getting more powerful means a lot better performance. The unbent version of the chip retains the same 12 12 cores, I think CPU improvements are going to be impressive. But again, the most interesting part is the graphics. The M3 Pro has less GPU cores than the M2 Pro, but according to Apple, is more powerful. The base M2 Pro has 16 GPU cores and M3 Pro has 14. Even the unbinned M3 Pro has less GPU cores than the M2 Pro. But 3 nanometers and improved GPU design, coupled with those 3 impressive features, allow Apple to squeeze much more juice from each core than before. And less cores means less power consumption. Another really interesting thing about M3 Pro is the base amount of RAM. Now it's 18 gigs instead of 16. This is super interesting because of one thing. 18 gigabytes means Apple will have to use 3 memory chips, which can decrease the memory bandwidth. But the higher amount of memory itself and improved CPU and GPU performance should make up for that. I'm really curious to see how it all works and how the M3 Pro can be more powerful than the M2 Pro. With the M3 Max, everything is simpler but still very interesting. The M3 Max has a significant advantage in terms of CPU and GPU performance over the M2 Max. The 2 additional performance cores in the base M3 Max give it a 14-core CPU, which is significantly faster than the 12-core CPU in the M2 Max. The maxed out M3 Max gets 16 cores in total, 12 of which are performance cores. This is absolutely insane. The M3 Max also has a more powerful GPU than the M2 Max. 40-core GPU in the M3 Max is up to 20% faster than the 38-core GPU in the M2 Max. This performance difference will be most noticeable in graphics-intensive applications such as gaming, video editing, software development, and 3D rendering. But that's still not everything, because the M3 Max also supports more RAM than the M2 Max. M3 Max can be configured with up to 96 gigabytes of RAM. This additional RAM will make a huge difference in basically everything. 3D, video editing, music creation, now MacBooks are even more limitless, and that is a great thing. Aside from new MacBooks, we also got the updated iMac. The iMac is now equipped with the M3 instead of the M1. iMac since 2020 has been a very popular choice for offices. People bought it as a family computer, and performance of the M1 was usually more than enough, but now the M3 made the iMac twice as fast. More cores, better technologies, more efficiency, iMac is cool again. Aside from chip upgrade, there are no changes. The design is the same, even the color options are identical. The display is still a 24-inch 4.5K panel. I wish there was a bigger 27-inch version of this iMac. I personally find 27 inches much more convenient. And oh, the Wi-Fi is now version 6E instead of 6, which means better speeds and improved quality of connection, and Bluetooth is 5.3 now, which should really make those AirPods Pro 2 sound as they should. And that's all, just a spec bump. Though it would have been cool to get the iMac in space black, right? I believe this event and new chips are the best indication of where Apple is going and what the future will look like, and I do like that future. Powerful, efficient, capable of gaming. Is there anything else to wish for? I can't wait to test everything out, and on 7th of November, we'll get my hands on the M3 Pro 14-inch, so stay tuned for that.